hello there. Welcome to Canadian Computer Collector, where we're here to show you how to do cool computer stuff, like rehousing a PC into a brand new case. This one that I have in front of me has been my daily driver for quite a long time. I've updated a lot of the hardware, but the case has always remained the same, and some of the fans are starting to go. Not that fans aren't replaceable, but you know, it's scratched, it's dented, it's loved. Took this thing to LTX in Vancouver a couple of years ago, and to numerous other lands. Been a super handy case to have. Cable management's a breeze because you can hide it all behind the back flap here. Overall, it's been a pleasure having this case, but it doesn't really go with my new office, so I need to switch things over. And today we're going to show you sort of the principles of how to rehouse a computer into a brand new case. So if you're worried about taking your desktop apart, put it into a fancy new home, don't worry, it's not that bad. All right, first things first, Amaryllis, you're gonna wanna take off your side panel. No matter what kind of case you have, whether you have tempered glass or something with just the metal side, no window at all, you wanna take off the side because you're gonna need to get access to the internals. So with this one, it's just 2 thumb screws on the back, and once you've undone them, it slides right off. Bada bing, bada boom. So here's what years and years, actually probably not even years and years worth of dust looks like. And no matter what kind of PC you have, it's probably going to accumulate. I have cats, so maybe mine accumulates a little bit faster than the average, but this is basically par for the course. Now, depending on how thorough you want to be, you can clean the whole thing out, or you can transfer your dusty pieces over. Transferring the dusty pieces over technically is okay, but it's not the most optimal decision to make if you're doing some high-end gaming. Never hurts to keep on cleaning. Look at that double chin. Robert De Niro. I am so f***ing sweaty, it's crazy. Okay, with the side off now, you're gonna wanna begin at the top and kind of work your way in. So we're gonna remove the graphics card first, because it's kind of in the way. And then, depending on the case that you've bought, you may not need the fans that are in your old case. So we're gonna leave our fans for now, unless they're in the way of trying to remove another piece of hardware. But of course, if you need the fans that are in your case, put into the new ones, you wanna take those out too, and we'll still show you how to do that. So let's remove the GPU. All right, now some graphics cards will have more than one power cable attached to them. This one only has a single one. It's a 3050 compact. Not exactly the craziest video card on the planet. Older cards might not even have any kind of power attached to them, but always look for it before you remove a graphics card. So we're gonna just press down on that tab and gently wiggle it back and forth, and then the power's up. Now, we have to remove it from the board. On this case, there's also a lock for some of the PCI Express lanes, which essentially holds these cards in place so they don't wiggle around too much. I've already undone it, so mine's loose. So we're gonna go ahead and open the lock. And some cases that do or don't have locks, either of them, will have little screws here holding these in instead. In this case, it has these little divots that just press into place. So with the lock open, we can now reach in and remove the card. This plastic piece here is what holds it, and there's a tab right on the end. So if we press the tab down, that opens it up. We should be able to wiggle the card out of place. I also have another card plugged in. This provides additional USB ports at the back of my machine. So what we're gonna do is reach down here and pull this cable off. It's not locked in place. And then gently slide that out. Again, that's an optional piece. Yours might not have it. Now, another thing we're gonna have to remove to get to our motherboard is this Wi-Fi card. So this motherboard does not have native Wi-Fi. This card provides it. Just pull it out of place and slide it out. So we've removed a handful of components so far, and we still have a lot more to go. They're not that complicated because we're just unplugging things, but you want to make sure you know what you're doing. The remaining items we need to remove are front panel audio, front panel options, all of these SATA clips, which are to different drives. This is a USB controller for the front panel. This is for power from the power supply for the board, and this is power for the CPU. So, and let's get our hands dirty. SATA clips are easy. You just press down on the little metal top piece, which allows you to pull it out. You do have to press down if it has a tab though, or else it will just get stuck and you'll rip the header off. These front panel pieces are not locked in place. You can just remove them. Same with the USB. Now, the 2 direct power sources from the power supply do have clips, so you want to bend the clip back on the board power and just wiggle it out. You might even need 2 hands depending on how solid it is. There we go. Up here we have CPU power. This one will also have a small tab, so just be careful. There's a fan right there. Shoot. Okay. We need to remove a fan, and in this case, everything's kind of hidden underneath body panels. So for this one, I have 2 thumb screws on the back, and again, it might be different on yours, might not. With those 2 thumbs off, we can slide this back and lift it off. And there are our fans. All fans are held in with 4 screws, typically, unless you're lazy like me and sometimes only put in 2, but it's pretty easy to get them out. That one pushed right through, and there we go. Oh, it's zip tied. That's cable management, baby. Okay, well, we just need to move it enough to remove that CPU power. All right, our clip is now visible. You can see where I needed to get my hand to press down. This is the top, push down, pull, and there we go. Some CPUs only require 4 pins, and they give you 8. This is not a broken clip. It simply just goes together when you plug it in. All right, let's flip this sucker on its side and start the surgery. So get all of our cables out of the way. Whew. That is very dusty. You have some options at this point. If you really want to be technical, you could remove your RAM separately, you could remove your chip and cooler, and then take out the motherboard. But in truth, you don't have to do that. You can leave all those components on there. Chances are, if the computer wasn't built that long ago, even within the last 5 years, your thermal paste is probably fine. It's probably cooling fine, and you don't have to replace it. Today, we're going to be thorough, so we are going to replace it, but again, it's up to you, because really, this is an extra step that if you're not feeling too confident about, you don't have to take. However, we're gonna remove the board as one unit, then take it apart. Most motherboards have a set of screws all around them. They may not all be populated. This one looks like it only has about 4 in it right now. I'm gonna remove these screws. I think we are free, or we should be. Oh, there we go. All right. Free mahi mahi. Let's talk for a sec. This motherboard is a complete unit. So it has RAM, a cooler, a CPU underneath the cooler, and a solid state drive. This is a functional machine. All the other bells and whistles, like graphics card or storage drives, those are extras. In this case, I do need a graphics card because this chip doesn't have onboard graphics, but most Intel chips do, and some AMD chips do as well. Okay, so we're gonna take our RAM sticks out, and you just push the little tabs down. Some boards have tabs on both sides. This one only has movable tabs on one side, and you just pull them up. Careful not to force anything. And remember, if you only have one stick of RAM, keep record of where it was slotted. It is important that you populate the proper channels, and it's not usually what you'd think. Typically it's 2 and 4 and then 1 and 3. I have 4 obviously, so I'm using all 4. Next up, we're gonna remove our cooler from our chip. So there are 4 screw heads here. You may have a different way that your cooler connects. Intel chips, if it's a stock cooler, usually just have these little tabs that you can turn. These guys loosen because they are connected to a small plate on the bottom of the motherboard. All right, now there's our chip, there's our thermal paste. We're gonna just undo the power connector for the fan on the cooler and move it out of the way. Now, using some 99% isopropyl alcohol and paper towel, we're gonna clean up the pre-existing paste on both sides of these. The chip can stay in there. Since we're just moving it over, reseating it won't really make a difference. I'm just gonna gently swirl this until it starts to come off. Don't wanna make a mess. Not that it matters because this is just thermal paste. It is not conductive. Okay, good enough. And on this guy, same thing. Just gonna rub the alcohol on it. With a nice clean chip, we're gonna take our thermal paste. We've got some Noctua NTH1. Spin on that thing. And we're just gonna put a bit of a zigzag pattern on here. Because we want the paste to kind of spread over top of it. Then we are going to mount our fan back on. All right, in this case, we wanna make sure the plug is close to the CPU fan labeled pin, which is this one. Plug it in, just like Glade. Plug it in, then get f***ed. And we'll just sort of tighten this evenly. And we'll reseat our RAM. Now, because it's off and we're just popping them back in, we don't need to go in the order that we specified. We have 4 sticks populating all channels. And you want each one to just click into place, but don't force it, like I said. Okay, board's ready. We can move it over. So there's our board, and there's our graphics card. Ta-da! How nice. How freaking nice. Freaking nice. Freaking nice. Freaking piece of shit. Okay, do you remember all of those SATA cables we unclipped earlier? I don't. I can barely remember what I eat. I shouldn't even be allowed outside on my own. They're attached in the back. Now, a lot of cases have all the extra drives mounted in a cage here almost, like there'll be a piece of metal and you can all have all your drives in it. This one's a little different. They're stored in the back, but we do have to disconnect them before we can slide them out. So we're gonna undo this side panel. Now, if your case has hidden storage, you may have to do the same. 2 thumb screws, slides off, and there it is. So we have our power supply, we've got our drive bays, these are all the connectors, this is the controller for all the fans. So let's start with our drives. We're gonna go like this and unplug them all. And then this case design allows you to simply squeeze 2 tabs and slide out your storage. So we've got 3 little guys there. And over here is one big guy. This is our 8 terabyte spinning disk storage drive. And this one lives behind a little cage that's behind a thumb screw. Same thing, press down the tabs, pull it right out. Other nice thing about these is to get the drives out, they're just an easy release. You simply bend the plastic a little and it snaps right out. Look at how nice that is. Same with the big guy, slide it right out.
Here are our drives for our new case.
And then the last thing we're gonna need, at least for the basic build, is our power supply. Usually power supply is held on with 4 screws. We don't have to take any panels off. We'll just fire these babies out. As it's unscrewed, it comes loose, you can slide it out. This part might be a little tricky because there's so much stuff coming through these rubber grommets. Ever so gently, just reclaim all of your power cords. Might have to give it a little help from the other side. Oh my God. And the big one. There we go. Power supply is free and very dirty. All right, now that everything's out, I'm gonna put all these panels back on just to kind of keep this thing contained. Oh, and also don't forget your motherboard I/O panel. That's an important piece because they are not generic. All right, suckers, here's the case I've got. Originally I bought this because I thought I would put a PC in it to flip because I got a good deal on it on Black Friday, but you know what? It's got the right color for what we're trying to do in my office. So let's pull her out of the box there. Hey? Oh yeah, it's a Same 205A or 205A. Got a bit of a grill on the front. God, I hate styrofoam, but it does a good job. Keeps them safe in the mail. Ow! Fuck, what was that? This is it. This is the new case. Sema. And just like that, that one's for the ladies. Isn't that show I mean, Carrie doesn't seem to be herself. I have no idea what's going on in her head because there's no narration. Samantha is a memory. Miranda is way not herself. And I'm not just talking about the change that she made. She's just afraid of everything now. Charlotte's a walking joke, like Mr. Magoo. She's a friggin' cartoon, so... Anyway, new case. This is it. Shiggity schwa. Let's get some shots. Let's get some shots, bro. Let's get some shots, bro. Wait, are these... I hope that's dirt, because that looks like scuff marks that are casting shadows.
I'm gonna frickin' somebody.
All right, we got a nice picturesque case. Next step, we got to put our parts in it, but we're not going to put our parts in until we blow all the dirt and crud off of them because, quite frankly, it's been a while. Insert sexual camel clip.
I can do 6 weeks standing on my head. I'm like a sexual camel.
All right, here's all our junk. The easiest way to get rid of dust and dirt like this is compressed air. So if you have a compressor at home, fantastic. You can also use an anti-static brush and a vacuum cleaner. However, right now we're gonna use a can of compressed air and blow this all out the door. And in case you didn't already know, compressed air can be bought at almost any computer part or office supply store. There's some very cold cans. That's what they said about. When you get your new case, the first thing you want to do is decipher whether or not it came with fans. The best way to do this is by looking. This one came with 4 fans. Obviously, they're just the cheap no-name ones. These ones look like they're going to work just fine, so for now, we're going to leave them because I was having trouble with my other fans in my Corsair case, which is very old. First thing we're going to do is open it right up. And to do so, we need to remove these thumb screws. And then this slides right out of place. Next thing we want to do is pull out some of these manuals. Let's pull the back off. These are also lovely thumb screws. Oh, wow, okay. Alrighty, so over here we have all of the relevant cables we're gonna need to build this PC. All right, gang, what the H is this crap sitting on a cutting board? Well, this is just to kind of further prove the point that I've made earlier, which is that computers are not that complicated. They're just a handful of parts working in unison. More mechanical than one might think. Shabadee-yah! So what do we have here? We got a motherboard all done up with a power supply connected to it. This is all gonna go in this case, but I just wanna show you, you don't even need a case. You don't even need a power button to run a computer. So here we go. We're gonna turn on our power supply. And then instead of using a power button, we're going to jump the pins using a piece of metal. Here we go, folks. And look at that. We got a running machine using the monitor that my brother cannot escape. We don't have any peripherals hooked up though, so we're just gonna, I don't know, maybe shut her down. Where do we start? Well, I like to start with the power supply because it kind of gives you an idea of how much room you're gonna have for cable clearances and things like that. If I flip the case around, it just goes right in the back here and slides in to face outward like that. Guys doing construction outside swearing. So let's take our PSU and slide it right in like that. And then the fan vents downward. We have alignment. Let's grab our screwdriver, and 4 screws will hold this thing in perfectly. We're trying to do a nice job here, so we'll use all 4 instead of just 2. It's always good to get an easy screw once in a while, you know what I'm saying? All right, power supply is loaded. So already, we got a bit of a black and white theme going. Doing a bit of a stormtrooper vibe, one might say. Nice case, Dan. Is that a stormtrooper case vibe? You'd be like, yeah. Okay, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Next up, let's put in our motherboard. And actually, just a quick note, it looks like our drives are gonna mount probably underneath in this little cagey thing, so you may wanna put that in right away too. So when mounting a motherboard, you always wanna put the case on the side. Yeah, there's some wires and stuff under there, they'll be fine. Just real quick though, before we throw the board in, we need to put this I/O plate in place. These have a little snap system where you can press fit them just with a little pressure. Press, press, and everything's in. And we're gonna lower that board in and line it up with that I/O plate. All right, obviously this is a smaller form factor board going into a bigger case, so there's lots of extra room, but that's okay. Okay, the next item on our list is our storage. So we're gonna be putting a hard drive in here. We have one really big one and then a couple smaller ones. I'm not totally sure how well it's gonna work, but I think this just slides out. You undo this thumb screw. And then you'll note that these have little feet here and there's a bracket. You can probably just pop this cage right out. There we go. And then that gives us some room to install another drive under here or multiple in this little cage, and you can slide it back in. Okay, using the screws that came with our kit, we are going to attach, first of all, our 8 terabyte spinning disk drive into this bay. So we want this end to face outward. There's all the holes lining up, so we'll screw that sucker in place. And then one on the other. But who are we to get away with things here, you know? Maybe we'll put our solid state here instead. And then this sucker slides into place. We're gonna put ours right there. So we have lots of space. Go back into lock her down. So on your case, there may be extra spots where you can put things. Have a look around. I try and identify where they are. This is a pretty standard spinning disk 2.5-inch hard drive. Now, the large one that we put in earlier, right here, is what they used to look like back in the day, and you can still buy them new that way, but a lot of things like laptops and other machines came with these smaller ones at one point in time. It's not a solid state, so it's not as fast as it, but it still has a terabyte of storage space, so I still want to use it. I think this is a perfect spot. These little screw holes are raised, which means there'll be a little bit of clearance. It's probably just the perfect amount for this thing. So we're gonna mount it right there. Let's see what we need to do. Okay, here's what they look like from the other side. So I'm gonna take the drive, just gently reach underneath here, line up the holes, and we'll screw it down. And since I don't have onboard graphics, we're going to put the graphics card in real quick here. But that means we need to remove some panels out of the back. One screw at the top should undo. This is the lock. Yeah, so that slides back. And these are all kind of held in place, but we need two. So sometimes you have to bend these tabs and break them off. There you go. But that's par for the course. Nothing crazy about that. And our card mounts right in like that. So once your card is in, grab a screw, get it ready, hold this thing up. This thing's coming right off. Oops! There we go. Because we don't want this sucker to move at all. It's a heavy piece of hardware. It deserves our best. Now the top one, which came out freely, can slide back in. It has this little clip here. So that goes in nice and tight. We'll need another screw. Put our guard back on. And voila, isn't that nice? Okay, it's time to start addressing the big mess of wires coming out of the back of this thing. Now, before we go plugging everything in, I just want to plug in the board and the CPU and graphics card and just make sure everything's working, because there's a lot of stuff to plug in, and if something's not, then we have to unplug everything, and then it becomes a whole thing, and then I have to shoot myself in the d. So the first cable you want to find is this one, the big end. This is board power. So we're gonna go and fish it through here and just tuck it through this opening, because that will reach perfectly into where we need it to go. Oh, hello there. Didn't see it. Just kidding. So I was watching this video back as I was editing it, and I realized that for one of the most important parts, plugging in your motherboard, none of the shots actually showed how to plug in your motherboard. So here we are, taking it again, and I hope this helps. Okay, let's have a look at this thing. We have 3 different cables that we're gonna be working with here. One is for board power directly, the other is for CPU power, and the final one is PCI Express power, which you would use for your graphics card. All right, we're gonna do board power first. Board power is pretty easy. It's this long comb-like set of connectors. This is not a broken one. This is another one of the optional connectors where older or smaller boards might use just this set of pins. Mine requires a bit more of a draw, so we're gonna take that extra one, which has 2 little plastic tabs. We're gonna slip it underneath the top ridge, and we're gonna take it, bend it. You just wanna make sure this little clip is lined up with the tab on the motherboard, and flip it, line it up, and press down. And you'll feel a little bit of a click. Next up, we have CPU power. So these are the 2 4-pin plugs that we have. Obviously, mine requires 8, so we're gonna take both. These ones don't have a little clip to line up. All we're gonna do is simply pick them up and snap each one in close to at the same time, because we don't have a lot of slack to work with. That is done, we had a click. And lastly, we're gonna plug in our graphics card. So that requires 8 pins. We have, again, another optional one. This is one of the ones with the little plastic tabs. I can show you over the white. You hook it underneath. Make sure your clip is lined up in the right place. We have a tab there. Press it in, just gently. You don't want to go too hard and break your card or your board. And that's done. All right, so let's get this thing plugged in and see if it works. We'll bust out that monitor again. And we are in test mode. That means we got no power button hooked up or anything. All we need is a screwdriver or a little metal tool to turn this sucker on. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, let's really take a look at this mess of cables. So if we ignore everything that's white, these are all fans, and because the case came this way, they're all sort of already interconnected, and we can simply plug this Molex into our power supply, and they're all just gonna work. They're all jumped off of each other. Here's the stuff that's more interesting. So these are for your front panel. These are things like your power switch, your power LED, storage LED. This one's labeled HD audio. This is for things like the front panel connectors of your microphone and headset. And then here we have USB. This will be for the standard USB. We've got white USB ports, which typically means USB 1.0, but there is a USB 3.0 connector included in here. So possibly that's an aesthetic choice. Seems irresponsible, but hey, I'm not the one who designed the case. Really, these are what you need to worry about at the moment. We have our basics plugged in. That's the motherboard, the CPU, and the graphics card. And here comes the rest. Now, we'll get to our additional storage later, because that's gonna also require some additional cords that we haven't pulled into the mix yet. Okay, so aesthetically, this is probably the worst solution possible, but we're gonna put this one drive up here on this little caddy. So off we go. Now we're gonna need a SATA cord and some power before we're gonna lock it in place. Since we're kind of going with like the red, white, and black theme here, let's see if we got some decent red SATA cords. I think we need 4 of them. So looking at each drive that we have, even though they're all different sizes and shapes, they all have the same ports on here. So each one is a little L-shaped connector that fits perfectly into its corresponding place. What we need to do is plug in 4 of these little connectors to the back so we can talk to the motherboard. And then each one also gets a bigger L-shaped piece from the power supply. Here is the first cable plugged in here. And then we'll just flip a little piece of power out and then tuck this down, if possible, and around. It's gonna be a tight squeeze, gang. Okay, well, big surprise, I also screwed up the camera angle in this section. So we're gonna learn how to plug in your front header panel pins. This is probably the least exciting part of any build. Since our machine is already built, and part of the issue that I ran into was not being able to get the camera close enough to the board with it being in the case, I'm gonna show you how to hook up front panel header pins with this cool old school Batman case and this semi old school Asus board. So let's get to it. Oh yeah, look at all this junk. Okay, first of all, this would be mounted in a case like that. And our front panel header pins are in the bottom right-hand corner, right above this LED. So we're gonna zoom in on that. Even though this is the worst task in PC building, it's usually because of the size of the font. Everything is labeled, so you really can't screw it up, but the print is so small, a lot of people do. These cables all look kind of similar in most machines. They will have a label on one side and typically a little arrow indicating positive on the other side. Here's the other thing. If you don't know what you're doing, you can always look up the board manufacturer information. I just like to be absolutely sure of what I'm doing, so let's double check. All right, gang, believe it or not, this thing is now ready to test completely with all of its little accoutrements. Oh, it's accoutrements. So let's get it plugged in. Let's get a monitor back up here and a little mouse and keyboard. So this time we're gonna try and check out what our drive directory looks like. I hope I didn't screw that up. I should say it also doesn't hurt at this point to give everything a little once over, make sure it's all plugged in properly. Turns out one of my drives didn't have SATA power, so... Switch is on, board has power. Let's see if the power button works. Sweet. Would you just look at that? You wanna know why we use the LTT screwdriver here? This is why. That is a magnet and a half, baby. Yeah, looks pretty good. Yeah, everything's perfect, just like it was before. Awesome. All right. Well, okay, both an art and a science. Cable management is one of the most fun parts about building a computer. Luckily, a lot of them have compartments like this where you can hide things away in the back. This one, unfortunately on this build, we have a lot of cables that are thick and new and don't want to bend very well. Instead of blowing this thing with a heat gun, I'm just going to shove them all in the back and do my best here. Sometimes you have to give it a little bit of a push. So don't be shy. Oh, sweet. You know what's nice? I didn't check this when I bought it and it's scratched.
Oh, really?
So it's probably way too late to... Or wait, is that another plastic thing? Hang on, we might be safe. Oh yeah, okay. Never mind, it was just plastic. Yeah. Fucking shit. Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Shit. We're just gonna throw this glass back on with these thumb screws. Well, folks, now that everything's transferred over and working, we have successfully moved our PC from our old case to the new one. Everything's going well. We're gonna try and do a few updates in the future, maybe some fans that better suit the motif, maybe a graphics card that has a white shell instead of a black one. This is basically the gist of how you do it. And now there's an LED button. Let's see what that does. Ooh, we got different patterns. So that's what the reset switch was plugged into, and I can see why, because typically a reset button would live there. But nobody ever uses those unless they are criminals, I don't know. Anyway, without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in to another Canadian computer collector. Just want to give a big shout out to my patrons. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. For $1 a month, if you want to join the ranks of the coolest people on earth and get your name in the credits of a video, check out the link in the description below. Show your support, show people that you love homemade idiots.